Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right.
Well, hello, Fortitude audience. My name is Amos. I'm here with my wife, Heather. Say
hello.
Hi. Hi. Well, I'm just doing the intro for the first time, and I'm going to hand it over back to you.
I love it. You actually have a better radio voice than I do. So
You do.
Thank you, Fortitude audience, for joining us today. We have the honor to sit with Adrie, who is the founder of Pizza Ranch. So thank you for being here today, Adrie.
Yeah, excited to be here.
And I love your name. I don't know that there's a lot of other Adries in this world.
I only know a couple. My grandpa was Adrian, and I'm named after him. Shorter version, but yeah, that's where the name comes from.
Well, the very first time that I heard your name, which I grew up going to the Pizza Ranch, and I want to speak to that, but we were sitting at a Life Flight luncheon, Amos and I, and that was just in the fall of this last 2022, I think. And while we were there, you spoke. You got up on stage and you shared a little bit of your journey. And I remember sitting at the back of the room and I instantly started to cry because your story touched my heart because our stories are very similar and yet unique in their own way. And so come 4 or 5 months later, Paul DeYoung, who has become a dear friend of ours, who is also on, I think it's like episode 4 or 5 on Fortitude. He mentioned that you two happen to be long life friends. And I have heard stories, and you two both have shared some stories. So just how this all transpired is a major blessing to me. And so there's so much to your story, and I just want to dig right in, Adrie. So if you could share with us currently where you're at, a little bit about your wife and your kids and where you reside right now.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Well, 61 years old. I still feel young, but I realize I have 6 grandchildren now, so it's different than it used to be. But I live in Orange City, Iowa, with my wife, 37 years. We have 4 children, 3 sons, and they're all very involved in Pizza Ranch, which, it's great. I love it. And then my daughter, she was a teacher, but now she's an at-home mom. And they live in the Orange City area too, so I got all my kids back. And they kind of scattered. Now they're all back. And yeah, like last night, they're all over I made scalloped potatoes and ham.
Yum.
And we didn't have enough, but anyway.
It was that good.
I don't think I made enough, but anyway. Yeah, so it's just, we have a lot of fun.
Good.
Family, yeah, do a lot with our kids and grandkids,
So did the boys decide kind of on their own, or was there a point that you pulled them in?
Okay, like I said, I have 3 boys. My oldest, Spencer, there was never a question in anybody's mind that he was going to be a Pizza Ranch guy someday. I mean, he always talked about it, always wanted to, as soon as he could, he started working at Pizza Ranch. So it wasn't never a question. And then my next son, Ross, who is completely different. And I never really got a feeling from him that it was a passion of his. I seen him more like in the banking world or just more of a desk guy, not really a pizza guy. I mean, there's 2 very different types of people. And when he told me he wanted to be Pizza Ranch, I said, Ross, are you sure? And we sat down and had a long talk because I really wanted to push him into something different. Not to say he wouldn't come back and do that for us, but it's like I just wanted to make sure Pizza Ranch was what he wanted to do and it wasn't something else. But he assured me, and so we put him in a pretty tough store to be the GM there, and because he had worked through high school. So but then he took a really hurting store, turned it around, Lincoln, Nebraska, and I realized, this guy really does know what he's doing, and he is passionate about Pizza Ranch. So now he's actually in the office, and he does a lot of our anything that I really don't like to do is he does it, and he does it really
Ross.
good. So yeah.
That's
nice.
great.
How many stores do you have?
218 right now. So.
And what's the geographical footprint? What states are you in?
Yeah, we're in 13 states. So basically the Midwest, Michigan, Montana, Colorado, down to, we're looking at Ohio right now. So it's, yeah.
Up to North Dakota?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
And what year did you start?
2000, no, not 2000, 1981.
Okay.
You're out of high school.
And you're known for pizza, and you're known for, there's a buffet.
Yeah.
And I love Pizza Ranch because you have really good, you were one of the first to have gluten-free crust options, which was just appreciated. And then how many of your stores have the arcade next door?
I think we're at 63 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
They called it the
Fun Zone.
Fun Zone.
And if you open a new store today, you have to have it. I mean, there's always exceptions to every rule.
Sure.
But it's one of the mandates now that if you open up a store, you got to have a Fun Zone with it.
And the one next to closest to us has bouncy houses. It's a great place for our kids to go and burn off some energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They ask us probably once a week if we go to Fun Zone.
Well, you got all those boys. I mean, what a great place to feed them and
man.
waste some energy. And
We have a lot of fun there. Yeah. So 1981, I think back, you were only 19 years old, Adrie. And you tell us the little bit of the history on how that all transpired.
Yeah, I went to school right out of high school for horticulture because I wanted to, that's kind of weird. Paul and I talked about that too. You know, he did that life, and that's the life I wanted. And it's, I wanted to be a greenskeeper somewhere, and but I dropped out of school. It just wasn't for me. And then I started welding full time, and then I got a part-time job at a pizza place about 10 miles down out of we lived in Hall, Iowa, a little town, and then there was a town called Sioux Center, Iowa. And that's where I was working pizza. And then I came home one night. My dad said to me, should we open a pizza place in Hall? And I kind of looked at him. I said, I don't know, Dad. I don't think it'll work.
How big was Hall at that time?
1,800.
Okay.
And, today there's pizza everywhere. It wasn't that way back then. Reagan was just became president. So that kind of tells you. If you don't know who Reagan is, then that tells you how old I am. So, but it's like...
Google it, kids.
Yeah, really. And, but then he sat down with me again and said, no, Adrie, I really feel that this is something we're supposed to do. And I had nothing to lose. I'm 19. I didn't have anything. And I looked at him and I said, okay, Dad, we'll go ahead and do this. And he bought a building. And he bought a bunch of used equipment out of a pizza place that went out of business. It was really a bunch of junk.
Wasn't it called a pizza parlor or something?
Yeah, it was a brand name. I don't want to bring them down that they closed and we bought their stuff because they're still around. But it was like in the Spirit Lake, Iowa area. And it was a bunch of junk, and we sprayed it all off and got most of it to work. And yeah, my dad... We went to the bank, and he signed his name at the bank for the loan because like I said, I had nothing, so I couldn't borrow any money, and he borrowed the money for it, and 17.5% interest rate. So back then, the farm crisis, it was tough, and then we decided to open up a business, even though that was all going on, and we opened up, and that's so. If there are any young kids listening to this, I love to tell them, if you don't know what you're going to do in life, don't worry about it because God has a plan for you. Because I guarantee you, it's probably 4 months before we opened up that I realized pizza was going to be the rest of my life. It wasn't even a thought up until 4 months before. Now here it is, 41 years later, and I do it every day yet. So it's
And you've done it for 41 years, and the memories that you've created for families and for kids. Like, I go back to where I grew up in southwestern Minnesota, Adrie, and that was where we went after every sporting event. That's where I had a bridal shower there. I mean, everyone goes to the Pizza Ranch, and thank you, Lord, that he planted that in your heart when you were 19, because I can't say that little small town that I had would have had anything like that. And I know that is the case for a lot of small rural communities that you planted a place for an experience and for memories. And so thank you for that, because I think I had my very first kiss. I don't want to say think. I did.
Hold on.
I did. In the Pizza Ranch parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh, my buddy Luke Beers.
Thanks, Adrie.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Those memories, yeah.
It was such a great time. And I just went back home for a memorial for my uncle, and everyone gathered at the Pizza Ranch afterwards. And when I walked in, it was nostalgic. Like, it was so, my heart just swelled up, and everybody was having a good time. And I teared up thinking about you, and just had already met you. And I was like, what an honor it is. It truly has been. So I digress. So you are, we just said how many stores, but when did the franchisee parts come into play?
Yeah, we opened in Hall, then we opened up in Orange City a couple of years later. And I just want to point out too, like, Pizza Ranch wasn't my idea. It was my dad's. So God kind of handed it over to me. And then I had a guy from Mountain Lake, Minnesota just call me out of the blue and say, hey, I'm going to open a pizza place, and I hear you got the best pizza recipes. Can I buy it from you? And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Somebody wants to buy my pizza recipe. And I had a partner at the time. My partner and I talked it over, and we decided, hey, you know what? Maybe he'll buy a franchise from us. So we talked to Ron and said, you want to be our first franchise? And he agreed to that. So that's the second thing. I'd love to say it was my idea and it was something we really worked at, but it was just a call out of the blue, and he decided to become a franchise. And so we started. And 5 years later, we had 50 stores. And, when we're talking about small town Midwest, that's where we were. Nobody was in those small towns. So basically anything 3,000 or less, we were made for it. So,
10 stores a year.
Yeah.
That's on average.
Crazy.
That's cruising.
It was crazy. And we really didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about the blind leading the blind, and, there was a lot of truth to that, because we didn't. I was a young kid, and, we did. We taught them how to make pizza and how to treat people right. That's really what it is. And we had a lot of fun doing it. But, I was married at the time, and then we had 4 kids during those years. And my wife is still mad at me because I was gone all the time, but I was. That's just the way it is when you start a new business. And we was only a couple of us working at the time. So
we went through that.
We get that completely.
Yes, we get that.
So did you always have the faith component from the very beginning?
No. I grew up in a Christian home. Went to Christian grade school, Western Christian High in Hall, and so it was part of my life.
Yeah.
I believe God existed. I didn't question that, but Satan knows he exists too. Doesn't believe in him, or believes in him, but doesn't honor him. So that was kind of my life. I knew he existed, but I was scared to death of him. I didn't really want anything to do with him. I just looked at this God always trying to find out what I'm doing wrong instead of what I'm doing right, and to punish me. So it's like I didn't want nothing to do with him. And then at the age of 32, some guy that I really didn't even know, Scott, called me up and said, hey, I'm going to go to Promise Keepers. You want to go with me? I got an extra ticket. And I told him, you know what? I will go. And I'll never forget it. The first day we're there, we're up in Minneapolis at the Dome up there. And it was awful.
Oh.
It was the first day was like, I didn't like it. I hated it. It's like people were praising God and raising their hands. And it's like, this is not for me. And finally the day was over and the second day started. And it was one of those days too. The morning took like 10 weeks to get over. And finally it was done. We could have lunch. And then the first speaker afternoon talked about the prodigal son. I heard that story 100 times, and for some reason, God pierced my heart saying, Adrie, I'm talking about you.
Oh,
I love you. I'm not trying to figure out what's wrong with you. I love you just the way you are. I created you exactly the way I want you to. And afterwards, the guy that was speaking said, get in small groups and pray for forgiveness. And I got in this group of about 5-6 guys. I only knew one of them. I didn't even know the rest of them. And I was just so beaten. I couldn't even pray. It's just like, this this stranger next to me. I said, "Can you pray for me?" And he put his hand on me. He says, "Dear Lord, be with this brother. He's broken, and forgive his sins. Amen." And God, even though I didn't pray it, God knew it was from my heart. And the rest of the day, I'm standing on my chair and I'm raising my hands. It's like I didn't ever want the day to end. I didn't even know what happened to me. It's like everybody's looking, what's wrong with Adrie? And and then we got home that night and I just laid in bed. I thought, what happened? And I realized I was born again.
Yeah.
And God, he was embracing me. And it's like, man, it was incredible.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I have skeptic friends who have asked for intervention. They've asked for some sort of a spiritual event, and they've not received it. And I have people who are jaded, and they justify away what you experienced. They say, "Oh, it must have been a self." You talked yourself into it, or something like that. So, what do you say to those skeptics who just say, "Oh, you had a mental, or like you had a quote unquote spiritual event that was self-inflicted isn't the right word, but kind of from inside of you." What do you say to those people?
If you knew me, I was night and day different. My wife it was the hardest year of our marriage. It was as weird as that sounds, or maybe the second year, hardest year of our marriage, but because I was a completely different person. She didn't even know who I was. And all of a sudden I became the leader in the house when it came to God versus running away from it. It's just like, and she was praying for this all the time. So, all you had to do is know, it's like, well, whatever happened to him is real. But the strange thing about that is I had prayed that before. God, I know you're real, but you're not in my heart, and I want you there. And it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So that day it did. I don't know how God works, but it was a mystery. And I'm just so thankful he did that day. So
undeniable.
Oh, yeah.
It is, people will often ask that same kind of question. And when he gets a hold of you, when he pursues you, he pursues you and pursues you and does not give up. And then when you're actually open and ready for that transformation, that is when it happens. That's what I firmly believe is when you finally are at your knees and saying, God, like, I need you. I can't do this life without you. That's the moment where you have to surrender. And that day you surrendered.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty special,
yeah.
Adrie. So 32. What was it like because we're going to get to the place of, obviously we both have alcoholism, and that is not something to take lightly at all. And so what was life like living without the Lord? Were you actively drinking in that time frame?
Yeah. As soon as middle school already started drinking, all through high school drinking, and I love to drink. Mm-hmm. I just love it. I love what it does to me. I love my friends. When I'm drinking with them, so it was a huge part of my life, and it was a big part of my life, and it was like I didn't get really into heavy drugs, but marijuana was definitely a big part of my life. My wife was she didn't know a lot about that stuff, and you become a very good liar.
Yes.
And deceiver and hider, and but with my job I work nights, and when you work nights, I'm working till midnight tonight, mm-hmm. and you're not always working till midnight, or anyway, that's besides the point. So yes, very. And I when I got married, I thought, you know what, I have to quit drinking, and I quit drinking, I think, for 3 months, and then one of my best buddies and I took a little road trip, and I started drinking again. It's like, well, this is just, I love it. It's part of my life, and it's going to be a part of who I am. Mm-hmm. So yes.
Can't imagine life without it.
Can't imagine life without it.
Same.
There's no fun.
I loved drinking as well. I was the life of the party. I lit up every room with a bottle of Jack Daniels. Now it's with the Lord. But I think back to those days and I'm like, everybody loved when Heather came around, because at least I thought. I've heard other stories now. But so you had a couple accidents and you've had a couple pretty significant changing points when it comes to alcohol. So let's kind of move into that, because you're married, you're running a huge business. You have 4 beautiful little babies. And there was a point that you decided to actually give it up at a specific age, and you did for a certain time, and then you went back.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So, that day at Promise Keepers, that was the last day I had a drink. It's like, I knew I had to stop. I mean, it just like the Lord took it away from me. There were times, and he put some really good people around me, solid people that really weren't my friends at that time. And he put these non-drinking friends in my life to realize, there is fun at things. And yeah, just totally, God really took care of me. I mean, he put the right people in my place, in my life. And, my wife and I, had our kids were around, and yeah, so for 15 years, never had a drop. And it was like, which I'm thankful for, because that's when my kids kind of were growing up. So they don't really remember Dad ever drinking, or very little of him drinking. And so it's like, yeah, life was good. I was very involved in a lot of things when it came to church, with different activities and different, just so many things. My whole life almost evolved more around God. It did, versus Pizza Ranch. And, I had a great reputation and of just a good guy, and then, what? I knew I was going to answer this question about what happened the day I bought a 6-pack. And it's just like, as weird as it sounds, I'm kind of a sensitive guy, and things will hurt my feelings. It's just the way God made me, and God hurt my feelings. And that's what it boils down to. It's like there was this thing in my life, and it's like he purposely did the opposite. And it's like, and so I thought, screw it. And it was in the afternoon. I went to the convenience store and bought a 6-pack, rode around and drank it. And then I went home, and my wife looks at me and says, "Are you drinking?" I said, "Yes." I couldn't believe it myself. It was just the strangest thing. And I remember that night, I bawled like a baby, thinking, like, what did I do? Why did I do this? And my son was in basketball in high school, and we had to go to a game that night. And I just remember riding, it was an away game. I just remember riding, Marla drove, and yeah, I had a 6-pack, so I couldn't drive. And I cried the whole way there. I just can't figure out why I did that. And because it did. And then, I didn't become this raging alcoholic in a day. It was like a process of really the next 10 years. Every year got a little worse, got a little worse, got a little worse. And different things in my life that I can point my finger to and say, well, that's part of my problem. It's really, it was my decision. And it's like, I can blame this, I can blame that, but no, it was my decision. And I just, the first 8 years, I could hide it pretty well. And, some of my closest friends knew I was drinking and drinking pretty heavy, but some of those friends were drinking with me. And then the last 2 years, they wouldn't even drink with me anymore. Oh, yeah. Because I was no longer fun. You know, I just became this guy that if I started drinking, I got to be a butt, you know, and it was no fun, but I didn't care. I thought, well, you know, I don't care what you guys think. I'm going to do this. And, you know, my wife and I put her through a lot of crap too. And it's just like, it was just like, it was out of control. And I think about that. It's been, you know, not quite 2 years now, but it's just like, I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about my wife. I didn't care about my marriage. I love my kids, but all I did was think about myself and cared about me. And that's what alcohol will do to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, there's people listening that, wow, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. My wife still doesn't get it.
No.
But I get it. And, you know, I go to AA on Thursday nights and they get it too.
Yeah.
They understand it. And it's like, it's just the craziest thing what alcohol, if you can't control it, what it'll do to you.
It's true. I don't get it. I accept it. And I see it's a real thing. I'm wondering what happened that night after I hear regret, remorse through those 10 years, but especially in that very first night, you were saying, why did I do this? Why not reset? Why not take that regret and turn it into motivation?
I don't, the mind is powerful. It's like, well, it's been a week since I've had a beer. Mm-hmm. I can have another one. Mm-hmm. It's been 2 weeks. It's been a day. It's you can think, you can make yourself think anything, but it's like, but it was fun again. After, you know, it's like, oh, went to a couple different wedding parties or different things. It's like, or even a romantic dinner with your wife, having a couple glasses of wine, a couple more glasses of wine. It's just like, yeah, it just.
Did Marla, when she looked at you and she said, "You've been drinking," do you think, have you guys talked about that moment? And did she panic and like oh no, here we go? Like, because it's a real thing. We get a taste. And that's why they say I know in my heart, I cannot, and I never will play with alcohol, because it's that you allowed it in and then it just spirals. It spirals so quickly. And like you said, before you know it, you don't care about anything around you. All you care about is your next drink, where you're going to stop to get it. It literally consumes you minute by minute, down to the point of almost death. And those that don't understand, like Amos just said, and Marla, there is this fear, right? When Amos hears this, there's that, I'm sure in the back of your mind is a little bit of,
well, yeah, I think 15 years from now or sometime in the future, there was this, you know, there could be an event that we can't predict and just a thing. And then we spend the next time after that, just this really difficult period. Mm-hmm. And I know we'll get through it. But that period is hard. And I saw the regret and the remorse in your face of what your family went through. And I'm just hearing how controlling it is and how spontaneous that one decision can be and affect years after that. And yeah, it's a real something that's in my heart. It's not something I live out of fear of or think of the first thing in the morning, but it's a real thing.
My prayer every single morning, and you probably are there now because you went to treatment, and which we'll speak to that. But I did let my guard down once, 5 months after getting out of treatment, and dabbled peppermint schnapps. And Amos did the same thing. We passed each other in the hallway, and he looked at me and he's like, "You've been drinking." And then just, that was the moment that I realized I cannot let my guard down ever. Like I every morning wake up and I ask for all the armor of God, because that's the moment. You said you had a weak moment where you were upset with God and you just went and picked up a 6-pack. So just like that is how quickly our worlds can flip on its head. And so for any listener who is struggling with alcoholism or has that just the temptation at all to maybe dabble back in it, I just, man, hear it from Adrie and I to don't do it. Man, it takes what they say, give yourself 5 minutes. It'll pass. 5 minutes is it. That urge, like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then you're supposed to wait it out 5 to 10 minutes and call someone, go do something productive away from that thought, and it will wear off and you'll be so grateful that you did.
You'll never regret it.
No. So just encouragement from that, man. I have one person that you can call to just talk you through it. I know that sponsors a lot of times will do that for you, but so Adrie, tell us a little bit about the breaking moment, because I guarantee in those 10 years, your kids not having seen it growing up, your 4 kids and what they were thinking and your wife. And then the moment was like, it's time for help.
Yeah. There was, the last year was just, I'm just glad I'm alive, that I didn't kill somebody on the road or cause but basically what happened, I was out drinking. One of my favorite things to do was if I was gone, to start drinking in the morning instead of my coffee. It's just, I loved it.
Yeah, so did I.
And it's just, you're thinking, what? 6 in the morning?
Yeah.
I just loved it. And by 3 in the afternoon, you're not doing very well. And I was at Lake Okoboji and I went to go get something to eat and basically passed out in this parking lot. And the cops came and, somebody called in and said, hey, there's this guy. I think he's, they picked me up and I woke up in jail and I don't remember what happened. Mm-hmm. And that was at 3 in the afternoon. So it's like, and I'm thankful it was the longest night of my life, because I didn't sleep once I woke up. It's like, what happened? Where am I? What did I do? Oh my goodness. What happened? Mm-hmm.
And no one's telling you anything.
No one's telling me anything, it's just.
So you don't remember them actually coming to your car, putting you in none of that, right?
None of that.
So that's a really scary thing, because there's so many times, even when I was in treatment, that they talked about blackouts and brown blurs and how those are the moments where you get in a car accident and you end up killing somebody else and you don't remember. Half the guys that we spoke to in the prison, when I asked if it was a alcohol or drug related incident, and we heard from multiple of those individuals that they don't remember. They're literally, their mind was off when murder was committed or the car accident or whatever it was. And so how crazy that is, that you wake up and you're in jail and you don't remember any of it. That's wow.
It's
Adrie,
scary.
It is so scary. So who showed up? Like, how did?
Well, I got out in the morning. So, and then one of the jailers I actually knew, she was from my hometown, and she says, do you need a ride somewhere? I said, well, I need to go to my vehicle. And they said, well, they impounded it. She gave me a ride over there. I called my wife and said, hey, I'm coming home and I got some stuff to talk to you about. And so I got home and I said, you know what, Marla, I got arrested last night. I got DUI and it was just a bad deal and I need help. I realize it now. And there were other things throughout the last year that I should have got help quicker, but this is the one that did it for me. And when I said that I'm going to get help, she got on to friends right away and people that she knew that had gone to help or knew people who went to help, because she wanted the right place for me. Yeah. I was one of our franchisees, he's a pretty good friend of mine now. He went to treatment. So I called him up. I said, where'd you go? And he told me. And I could have drove there, and it was 4 weeks. And my wife found this place down in Arizona. I couldn't drive there, and it was 6 weeks. I don't want to be gone. I was going to be gone over Thanksgiving, and it's like, I want to be gone. I just, 6 weeks is a long time. And 4 weeks is a long time. And she says, you know what, Adrie? I don't want you home.
Yep.
I want you out of here. And so I listened to her, and I went down. It's called the Meadows down by Phoenix. And yeah, it was the right place for me.
Good. So 6 full weeks.
Yeah, 6 full weeks.
Yeah, I remember our decision. I was looking forward to some peace and quiet, some not fighting. Yeah, so I sympathize with that.
Yeah, I remember thinking too, same thing. I can't go that. The world will fall
It will
apart if I leave.
They're not. How are they going to survive?
Yeah. They've been surviving without us for quite some time. Yeah. Literally been holding the family together. We just caused chaos. So you get back, and you're almost 2 years in now.
Yeah. Well, October will be 2 years.
It'll be 2 years.
So
Okay.
a good year and a half. Yeah.
Great.
That is. Aren't you so grateful? Aren't you?
My prayer, it's just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know what else to say to him. That's my prayer every morning. Is that thank you, thank you, thank you, because every day you get a mind a little clearer, and a little more. Wow, what was wrong with me? How could that control me like that? And that's good, because the more I think about it, the more I don't ever want it. Because I left there still. When I went, I thought, never going to have fun again.
Yeah.
And I really felt that way. And then when I got out, it's like, no, there's a lot to this, but boy, there's certain things I'm going to miss. Maybe a romantic dinner with my wife, having a glass of wine, probably the only thing I miss right now. Otherwise, none of it.
Yes.
It's evil to me. A lot of people can drink, and it's not, but for me, it's evil.
It's pure evil.
Yeah.
And it just like the phones, I think, is the devil's taser in our society. I feel like the alcohol is just straight from the devil.
Yeah.
And there's so many studies now today. I'm so intrigued by neuroscience and what alcohol does to our brain and to our body. And there now is a lot of studies that are proven that alcohol has absolutely zero benefits. Like even wine, they say drink a glass of wine a day and it's healthy for your body. It actually is not. And there are a lot of studies in that. That's not just, just the pressure and all the things that I think of with alcohol and how we have to explain to people why we're not drinking. It's the society and the pressures and the acceptance. And I want so much for people to understand how incredibly dangerous it is. It is for our kids. It is for those who have alcoholism. Like when people, because I'm so open and there's no one asking me anymore, right? Because everyone knows. But before, when people would ask, I'm like, it's a matter of life or death for me. That is why. Like I don't. And are there days and times that I go, it's not fair. It's not fair that I'm not normal, because Amos is normal and I'm the alcoholic, and he can have one or two, and actually that's okay. And but then again, he talks about his gluten intolerant, and I can have a big old burger with a juicy bun and he can't, so it's like this, it's
not fair.
Not fair. So
not cool.
There are certain things in life that are they're not good. It's just not good for us as individuals. And we really have to take a stance, and we have to choose to not go there for our sake, for our family's sake, for those around us. Like the best thing I could have ever given this world is a sober Heather with a sober mind.
Amen to that.
Because
a sober Adrie.
Yep.
Yeah. Like we got that's the reason the devil was after us, is because we have a lot to say and we're not scared to say it, because we're living this life out for Christ. And so what do you think the next 10 years looks like for you, Adrie?
Next 10 years, I'll be in my 70s. So, it's like hopefully retirement, and that my kids completely take everything over there. But I'm not a great speaker, but I'm like you said, we're open. We're not, we don't hide secrets. It's not like, and if we can help somebody through our story, so that's kind of my goal, probably the next so many years, that, if people want to hear me talk, I'll talk. Or if people want to hear my story, or, we've had, people call us up and say, you know what, my kids or my husband or this and that. And can you sit down with us and talk? And, well, how do you make them quit? It's like, you don't.
No, you don't.
No. You can say anything you want.
Yeah.
No.
That was going to be my question. There's when you talk this, so you can give encouragement to the one who's on the receiving end, someone who's just receiving the hardship that comes with dealing with someone who's an addict. You can give them the encouragement and say they'll get over it. They're just going to need to get to the bottom. But what can you say, if anything, to the person who's going through it right now and experiencing what you experience at your lowest point?
As the person who's drinking, like, I think about, with me, I was praying the last year and a half, very half-heartedly. God, I don't want to stop drinking because I love it, but you got to do something. And I would pray that very softly, because I didn't even know if I wanted him to hear that prayer. But somehow he heard it, and he heard my heart breaking. I think it does break.
It does.
And he saved me that night. There's just nothing else I can look at that he answered my prayer. And thank you. So it's like, but it's, for the person like my wife, she could answer that quick, because I'm not going to tell somebody to stick it out, because you don't know.
Yeah.
But don't stop praying. I mean, and supporting. But I'll leave it at that.
Amos has said a couple different times. Well, actually, you've said it more than a couple, but just the whole divorce wasn't on the table. But yet he didn't know what it looked like to be separated, or to how we were going to navigate through it, or even if I was going to quit, or, how God's divine intervention happened to both you and to me. My encouragement is for what Marla and for Amos is, this Adrie and this Heather is so worth it. We're on fire. And I know that every single alcoholic or every person has it in them. It's in there. But this disease is so powerful. It is, alcohol is powerful. The disease is powerful. And yet the prayer, God has not, he is pursuing every single one of his children, and he will not give up. So to pray. Don't enable. I think the enabling piece, I'm so grateful Amos did not enable that when I had that small little relapse in May. He's like, no, here's the line. You cross it. This is what's going to happen. If A happens, B is going to happen. And I knew he was not messing around. And it wasn't a threat. It was more of a,
This is the facts.
Yes, here are the facts. And when you get to the place of the parking lot and you're passed out and your blood alcohol level is probably a 0.4 or something, did they tell you what you blew?
Yeah, I don't remember. It was very high.
Yeah. To the point where we drink so much that we drink and black out and wake back up and do it again. That is really, really scary. And, I can say it's just a matter of time before something bad happens. That's the point of alcohol. It doesn't just stay medium, and you don't just keep walking this fine line and you're fine. You hit rock bottom. So, that's scary. You don't want to live in fear, but it's inevitable that something bad at the other side is going to happen if you don't quit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, Adrie, I am in the same place as you. I can't stop sharing my story. And I know a lot of people hear it over and over and over, and it feels redundant when we share it. But we get so many calls and people reaching out on Facebook Messenger and people that will bump into me in different places and say, hey, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, because for the first time I felt seen. Like, there are so many people hiding and not knowing where to go or who to turn to or how to get help. And so by saying they can reach out to us or I'll help people find a solution, find a place for healing and a way to step into this recovery journey, because it's so beautiful and it's hard, but it's good. It's so good to have a sober mind. Do you agree?
Oh, so good.
It's
just so, and it is fun. Mm-hmm. We're still fun.
We are still fun.
Yeah, more fun. Yeah. People want to be with us again.
They do.
Yeah.
I can see it in the smile on your face.
Yeah.
I can see it in your expression, and I can see it in yours, Heather, of course, always. But I could see the joy you're experiencing that you didn't think you could experience like this. And so congratulations. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Thanks.
Yeah. And for your family too. Just the whole Pizza Ranch family. Like, you started a legacy and you're continuing your legacy, Adrie. So it's just fun to be a part of that. So thank you so much for being here today.
No.
Is there any last final things you want to say?
2 quick things. I think for me and for you both, we had a great system around us of support.
Correct.
And so for people who are sober and don't have an issue with drinking, and you have a friend or a loved one, support them wholeheartedly. Because if you don't have that support, when I went to treatment, I had people that I was with saying, hey, as soon as I get home, my wife's going to have the vodka on the table because I'm her favorite drinking partner.
Right.
Well, what's the chances of that person still being sober today? It's about zero. Mm-hmm. And so, and I when you talk to a little bit about God pursues us, I went to a treatment place that wasn't God-centered. Not even close. And oh my goodness, things I learned there, things I seen there, it's like, wow, I do live in Northwest Iowa, I guess. But it was amazing. Even though God wasn't wanted there and God really wasn't even allowed there, God was pursuing every person there. And as a believer, kind of sitting in the background, it was so obvious.
Oh, cool.
It was just like, wow, God, you want everybody, not just certain people. Everybody out there, he's pursuing. And it was just the coolest thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
To see that there's sinners who have turned their back on God, denied them, and yet God is still pursuing them. And you could see that. What a great God we have.
Yeah. Wow. And Adrie, this is the piece that is so, all we're doing is living our life for Christ. Christ gives us this joy, the smiles on our face, the pure, it's like a peace and an understanding and a joy of everything around us. All I want to do is serve people and love people. What is so wrong with that? You know what I mean? When people are scared of being a Christian or believing in Christ, it's like, man, why would you not want to feel so complete and not need any extra substance of any kind? I mean, coffee is an exception.
That's an exception.
But there's a lot of that I'm like, man, this is what life is all about, is this right here. Mm-hmm. That he took us from the pit of hell here on earth and redeemed our lives. And we sit in front of each other today, sharing in the same sort of pain and suffering, but ultimately he pursued us, he won, and now we're living our life for him.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
I'm curious, what you said you learned a lot in treatment. What are a couple of the big things biggest takeaways?
Yeah. they focus on your first 18 years of life, and so I learned a lot about why I do the things I do. I mean, and which, some of it's really hard, and it was, some of it was really crazy. It's like, wow, my wife's a social worker, so she thrives on my stories and telling about what they all did to me there. And it's like, but a lot of people to go, I don't think. But anyway, but a couple big takeaways. They teach you your trigger points. Yeah. So, and as soon as I get trigger points, I know what they are, and I got to back off, got to back up. Okay, this is really doing this to me. I got, so, and I got 3 or 4 of them, and I know what they are. And then the other one, big takeaway was I can't even think of it now, but there was 2. Yeah, it's gone.
The triggers is a really, that's a big piece.
Yeah.
Yep. And the trauma that we bury.
Yeah.
That surfaces and they are the trigger.
Yeah.
Yep.
I tell you, my biggest is going through your journey. My biggest takeaway and biggest realization was that it's hereditary.
Yeah.
It's passed down, and that the choice really wasn't there. It was just a matter of time before it kicked in, given your surroundings. And it wasn't something that you built over time. It was something waiting to explode.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I like I said, I have 4 kids, and I sat down with one of them, maybe 3 months ago, and just said, I know you like your alcohol. Just have a couple rules set in place, because you are my son, and there are hereditary things there, and you are a lot like me, and just don't ever have it in the house. Have that one rule.
Yep.
And whether he listens or not, I don't know. But
that's a rule we have in ours too. If it's in the house, that's just unwanted temptation.
Yeah.
That'd be awful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you.
Yeah. I don't hold firecrackers in my hand when I light them. You know what I mean? Is that a good analogy? Like, I don't do dumb things like that.
Yeah.
Like have alcohol in the house where I know what's going to do. What the risk is. And it doesn't make sense.
The other piece too that I'll say to a lot of different people that reach out to me, it's educate yourself. Read everything you can, listen to podcasts, talk, from a spiritual journey, but in the earthly parts of alcohol and what it does, and how to better assist your partner if they are an alcoholic and they are actively drinking. And there's things that you can say that will trigger them to drink more. And there's ways that you can love on them and speak to them in a way that makes them not want to drink. And when you know better, you can do better. And so not to sit and point fingers and do victimization and all the different things, like just learn, dig in, and you have to be able to pursue your partner, and you just can't do better unless you know better. I can always say that all the time. And Amos is like, yes, I love this, Heather, because I'm all about learning and trying to help people. So that's one more piece that I would definitely recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been so great. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Adrie. I know it's not easy, but it's definitely going to change so many lives. And the more that you get in front of people, and the more, business people that struggle with this, that's one piece of it that I'm really passionate about, is the high functioning alcoholics like you and I, where we can maintain a career and we can run a business and have a family and
do it all.
And yet behind the scenes, we're literally killing ourselves. Yeah. And so I am all about reaching them as well. And so it'll be fun to do this together. So thank you so much.
Well, appreciate it very much. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for being open.
And we'll have ways and different things in the show notes that if you needed to reach out to Adrie or are just more curious about the Pizza Ranch or opening up a franchise. I think you
There
have
you
a
go.
goal. You have a goal coming up.
500 stores is our goal. So
And you're at?
218.
That
So
sounded
it's
defeated.
Like, well, I know. It's like, I got a ways to go. So
You are going to get there. You have great help in your sons. And there's a lot of different things that we'll put in the show notes so people can find out more about you.
all right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.